It's time to do something impossible. Are you guys ready for this? It's time to fix Nilfgaard Soldiers. We're going to try, once again, we're going to try to fix a faction that's better than CDPR. If you recall, we did this with Harmony earlier, and it worked out really well. People really liked it, so we're back to fix another incredible faction. In this case, archetype of any faction, the very much forgotten, neglected soldier archetype. Soldiers. Let me go ahead and get set up here. Here we go. Fixing Nilfgaard Soldiers. Holy crap. Holy crap. We're going to fix this entire thing. So, what is the core of soldiers? Well, CDBR has basically said CDBR soldiers, or CDBR says soldiers work with armor. Kind of. The Imperial Formation, a while back, got reworked, so now it's you still have the old boost an allied unit by 2, charges 3, moving now a unit to the top of your deck, typically a Ffion. We got this special line. Whenever you play a soldier, give it 1 armor for each adjacent soldier. Excellent. What a simple concept. It's like this seems really straightforward. Play a couple soldiers, the more you get, more they stay on the field, more armor you get, up to 2 per soldier as long as you put them between 2. Simple enough, simple enough. Here's the problem. 0 soldiers benefit from armor. So let's go ahead and just search the word soldier. And let's go find the barricade ones. You have crossbowman, 2 armor. Barricade, damage your random enemy unit by 1 whenever you play a soldier. Well, with Imperial Formation, I can give him 2 more armor. That's great. Except to do that, I have to play 2 soldiers, which means I miss out on 2 damage. That's a terrible synergy. Terrible synergy. I get something also like, where are you, Tortoise, my boy? Tortoise, my boy, or 4-drop now. Where are you, buddy? I am blind. Where is my tortoise? There you are. Exposed, boost an enemy unit with the most power by 3. Hey, this card, if you want to give it extra armor, that means removal, the benefit of removal, right? If I hit with like 2 points of damage, I get 3 points back. It's pretty good for the opponent. Of course, it's a 7 for 4. That's a great deal. But if I give it extra 2 armor, it becomes even harder to benefit from the exposed here. What happens is, what's going on in this, the soldier ability, is there's no payoff for the armor. Why? And that is what we're going to fix. Let's focus on the armor problem. So we need to basically 2 things. 1, leader ability needs to have a payoff for armor. Ooh, I'm a little bit off the screen here, aren't I, guys? Let me nudge it over. It'll make it look a little awkward here. That's okay. And there we go. And 2, number 2, soldiers need a payoff for armor. Let's start with number 1. Issue 1. Get rid. Issue 1. I'll call it issue 1 solution. Get rid of the deck manipulation. Why? It's like literally useless. It has nothing to do with the armor mechanics of the soldiers. Instead, my proposition, new ability, remove all armor on a row, damage enemy unit by armor lost. 2 charges. Okay. What are we doing here? We're saying, hey, build up a bunch of armor on a row, and then at the end of the round, you can delete all the armor, making your units vulnerable, and smash somebody across the face. Take out a large unit. You have 12 armor on the row, strip it all and smack an opponent. This is an interesting ability. Why? Well, if your opponent stays really low, you get punished. So like swarm decks will still be very punishing here. If your opponent plays a really powerful card that you need to kill immediately, let's say I really want to kill their Dunka or a move engine, something like that, I can use my charge at a lower damage amount, but now my soldiers are vulnerable for the rest of the round. You have to bounce this. As for what Luckcock saying in the chat, I know the chat doesn't appear up here, seems too strong? Yes, maybe it is. But the key part here, when it comes to design, we've already seen from things like Vi and Sunset Wanderers, as long as there are numbers to adjust, and in this case for leader ability, things like charges, amount of damage, and provisions for the leader ability, you can easily fix anything. It's not about the numbers themselves are easy to bounce. I can make Ointment the most busted card in the game. This thing is like worst spores. I can break this card by making it boost a unit by 14. Be the best card in the game overnight. right? By adjusting numbers, you can make anything good or bad. It's not about power level on this kind of a show. It is going to be purely about, is this an interesting design that would get people excited to play the archetype and could be bounceable. The could be bounceable is always pretty much given. So 13 revisions, yes, and phobias, right? Hey, 16 is definitely going to be too much if we actually fix the faction. 16 is really a busted amount of provisions. Might need to be 13. Might need to be 14. So, or if you think maybe this is the wrong thing, maybe it needs to be a card. As Luckhawk is pointing out in the chat. Sorry that people can't see the chat. So, that is one. That is my proposition. Number 2, our issue 2 solution. New keyword. Yeah. We're bringing in a new keyword, guys. We got a new keyword. You guys ready for this? Phalanx. Phalanx. A new fam member. On Eve 77, welcome to the Plain Talk fam. I'm honored you're joining us here today as we exchange gifts in a white elephant swap. I don't know if you are, is that what it's called? Where you switch gifts of everyone? Anyways, welcome aboard. Check out the socials, YouTube, Discord, and Twitter. They're popping, they're hot. Check them on out. They're fresh out of the oven. Welcome aboard to the family. So, what is Phalanx? This is my new keyword. Basically, it says for each unit adjacent, I can't spell adjacent, but nobody cares, that has armor. Holy cow. Let's talk about how simple a mechanic this is. Instead of barricade, which basically says I can turn off my opponent's units by smashing through their armor, fine. I reward, Phalanx is basically saying I have to smash for the stuff next to them. Makes things really, really, really interesting all of a sudden. Cards like Imperial Brigade and Slave Infantry can be used to quickly repair areas where the Phalanx is broken. Hey, both sides of a key and really important unit that needs Phalanx is broken. I'll play Slave Infantry on one side and transform the unit on the other side. Boom, Phalanx is back. Fix it with the Imperial Brigade if I'm starting with where the summon copy is going to enter. Ffion all of a sudden becomes a much more interesting card because he comes of armor. So I might say I need to keep buffing Ffion, or I might say I need to fix a hole in my Phalanx, get this card online. Ffion on one side, buff the other side. It's crew for Nilfgaard, but with armor based, and it's very interactive. That's the idea. And then Blavon, welcome to the Plain Talk family. I'm so glad you're joining us here today as we learn how the Romans fought wars. Welcome aboard. If you like what you see, check out the YouTube, Discord, and Twitter. Welcome to the family. Midir, welcome to the Plain Talk family. I'm glad you could join us here today as we watch all 800 plus episodes of One Piece. Welcome aboard. If you like what you see, check out YouTube, Discord, Twitter. Both of you, they're hot, they're fresh. Check them on out. Welcome to the family. But the idea here is set up formations. You make your opponent, make the Nilfgaard player have to choose if they're working on the front row or the back row. And then the range lock stuff is much more impactful, right? If you want to play swears, and maybe you give it like season enemy unit of power 2, Phalanx increase the power by 1. All of a sudden, you're stuck building out the Phalanx on the front row if you want to reward swears, but then anything you add to row lock on back row, you probably want to row lock something onto the back to make you have to make choices. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a much more interesting thing, much more decision, and trying to figure out how to place your units and trying to figure out, hey, I want to make sure 2 units aren't dependent on the same middle unit for the Phalanx formation, because then my opponent has an obvious unit they can start gunning down to inhibit my point generation. That's my proposition. Give Alba Pikeman Phalanx instead of bonded. Damage random enemy by unit by 1 instead. Great. If I want to turn off their engine, I just need to target other ones they're dependent on. It is very interesting here. Catching up with the chat, which I know is off screen. Manga's better, Lord B. Ha. Midir, welcome. I'm glad it'll be a long stay then. It will be a long stay, and I'm glad you're here. Insane success of my Skellige Igni deck. Ben Stefani, yeah. I think Skellige Witchers, really fun. Same with Skellige with Druids. Check that out as well. It's really good. Another proposition from chat. Retaliation. Whenever this unit loses armor, damage any random enemy unit by 1, could make armor more useful. Coleman's interesting, but here's the problem, right? Armor works by saying, look, I'm going to punish you if you have removal, right? Because I will trade 1 point off my unit, because this could be a 6-5. Or maybe, 6-5 is hard to say, it's only 1 armor. What's a good 2 armor card? What's a good 2? Glynis could be a 5-7 very easily. But instead, you make it a 4 with 2 armor. This gets more punished if you lock it. It gets less punished and actually rewarded if it tries to take damage. That's how armor really works in this game. It's in my general ballpark understanding, it's a 2-for-1 ratio. You want to encourage your opponent to have to interact with armor abilities and armor itself But you don't want to necessarily punish them entirely. So if I get punished now and armor gets broken to get even more punished, that's a bummer. The only faction that really I feel like deserves that is Skellige, because Skellige loves self-damage, so having turning armor in the points is very Skellige-like. I don't like the concept of turning armor in the points for Nilfgaard. I like the idea of forcing my opponents to interact with it and punish them for trying to use locks and such instead of having to brute force through my armor, making armor a bit weirder as a on and off switch instead of just lock it instead of kill it with damage. For me, that's what I like. Let's see. Some other reactions. Proud Gwent's not a fan of Phalanx. That is okay. This is my take on it. Fix it however you like. But in my opinion, that's it. There are way too few cards that can turn armor in the points. I agree with it, Phobius. So you have to rework some cards. So I think Alba Pikeman could benefit from Phalanx. Pop him with 2 armors or 2 armored soldiers on the left and right to defend your pikemen. All of a sudden, they're online. You can do stuff. You can probably rework Standard Bearer. It's not as good as it ever was meant to be. You can rework some of these other cards. You can give Slave Hunter Phalanx if you wanted to. Give him armor. So now all of a sudden he's interested in soldier decks of Ramon and Ffion. A little bit of overlap there. Phalanx, I think, is, in my opinion, the solution. This is a bigger one. You can adjust the cards however you want, but rewarding players for setting up and keeping armor units and then fixing the different holes with things like Ramon, Ffion, Imperial Brigade, and Slave Infantry would be an interesting concept. It uses some of the existing mechanics already in Soldiers, but rewards you for setting up the armor and punishes your opponent and makes your opponent have to make interesting decisions about, can I find good units to damage and restrict them of armor to minimize the amount of points they're generating? Hey, are there 2 Alba Pikemen depending on 1 unit for their Phalanx ability? Great, let me smack that down. If they play a soldier from their hand to repair it, they can only repair one side of the Phalanx. I think it is fascinating as a concept, and I think it would play really well into the game. Those are my thoughts on Soldiers. I know this one was a more high-level one, but I really think right now you need a better payoff for the leader ability. You need a keyword. You need a reward for having armor that's more complex, that makes you think about how I position my units and really rewards that, particularly because it's Imperial Formation. If I was going to say any feel for Soldiers, like how they should leave and feel if CDPR reworks it, it should be formation based. It should be soldiers benefiting from other soldiers being around it or in particular spots. That is, I think, the future of Nilfgaard Soldiers as I want to see it. But you can disagree with me. Let me know down below. Let me know. Twitch is already letting me know in the chat. It's hidden right now. And I'd love to hear what everyone else's thoughts are. I love all of you. Take care. Shout out to McRandar and Ahmed Ali for all their generous support on Patreon.